Hello, everyone, and welcome to the March 11th, 2015 edition of Balls Deep Sports Talk. I am your host, Scotty Ball. And boy, it is a beautiful March night here in Minnesota. If you are lucky enough to live in Minnesota, which we haven't been able to stay weather-based for quite some time. But if you're not enjoying the weather, you're probably done enjoying the weather now. We're going to talk lots of sports tonight. We got tons of football to talk. Tons of football. Crazy action yesterday. So you'll be getting my take on a lot of that, if not all of that. Now, you'll also notice listening this week, if you listened last week especially, you'll know too, my voice is not in the best shape. However, it did start coming around, and I was not going to let it deny you your sports talk for the week, because there's just too much to talk about. And to be quite honest with you, it's feeling a million times better than it was. It is really starting to improve a ton day to day. So don't worry about it. Should be good to go next week. I hope, at least. Fingers crossed. But we'll get through it best we can. Now, a couple show notes here to pass along to you. First of which would be the digitized alien robot type of sound effect that is mysteriously entering the show. We are aware of it. It is not a production issue, so those of us here at the show, along with everyone at the station, Northern Lights Radio, is trying to fix it, and hopefully we'll have that figured out very soon within the next week or two. Speaking of within the next week or two, I have been informed just earlier today that it is the hope of taking Balls Deep Sports Talk live within approximately 2 weeks. So it is very possible that next week will be the last pre-recorded episode of the show, and following that we will start airing live, in which event I will make sure you are fully informed of how to call into the show, as I'm definitely going to want call-ins during the live show. But again, that's just something to look forward to here in the near future. I do not have all the specifics on it yet, but I will definitely pass them along to everyone as soon as I have them. And also, if you're not doing so already, please like Scotty Ball on Facebook and friend me. That way you can keep in touch with the show on Facebook, or you can follow the show on Twitter at BDST Show. A great way to stay up to date on all the current happenings in the sports world, as I do comment, tweets, and retweets of sports news and events. And it's also a very fast, easy way to communicate your thoughts with me. So, again, find me on Facebook at Scotty Ball, and like the show on Twitter at BDST Show. But enough about the show. Let's get to some sports, huh? Alright, just so you're aware, we got a very big football show planned for you tonight. Boy, there was so much action in the NFL yesterday when free agency officially started at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. And it was slightly ironic because a lot of people had commented on how the new legal tampering window of the last week and a half or so that we've had, how that kind of took all the fun and excitement out of the free agency when it officially started. Well, that couldn't have been any further from the truth yesterday, but it was more in regards to trades that took place once that happened as opposed to actual free agents. However, there was plenty of free agent signings to be intrigued about as well. And in fact, as I was sitting at home yesterday trying to keep up with the television and the Twitter account and everything else that I was following all the NFL transactions on, I realized that this was probably my new favorite day in sports, or at least that is to say that doesn't involve an actual game of any kind. But maybe even then, I don't know. All I know is that it was incredibly fun and exciting to watch all the different events transpire yesterday when free agency started. And if you didn't enjoy that, you're probably not a huge football fan to begin with, and you probably won't like the next 20 or so minutes of the show. But for all you football fans out there, we got a lot of football to talk about. So, here we go. Now, As I start every show, every week, with a segment I like to call Balls on Fire, which is the topic that I am most heated about. Now, that can be heated up in a upset way, in a bad, negative way, or it can be heated up about in a really excited, enthusiastic, positive way. Either way, but it's really got me fired up. And as I was debating which topic I was most on fire about this week, it changed a couple times, as it usually does throughout the week, every week. But when it came time for me to decide, there was little hesitation that I knew what I was the most out about, and that is the man destroying the football team in Philadelphia. His name is Chip Kelly. Now, if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, this past week and a half has been absolute torture, and I got bad news for you, as Bad News Barrett in WWE would say. I'm afraid I've got some bad news. And I promise that impression's better when I actually have a full voice. But the bad news is, it's not going to end anytime soon. Chip Kelly has gone absolutely mad and has seemingly total infinite power when it comes to all the decisions being made in regards to player personnel for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, there in itself, to me, lies the biggest question mark and the biggest problem for the Philadelphia Eagles organization. What did Chip Kelly ever accomplish or ever do to warrant such complete control over a team? Has he won multiple division titles? Does he have a winning playoff record? Has he won the Super Bowl? Has he ever been to the Super Bowl? Has he been a reliable, constant contributor to your organization over the past decade or so? The answer to all of these questions is a resounding, unquestionable no. So, what did he do to get all this power in Philadelphia in the first place? That's the real question that needs answering if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Now, to Chip Kelly's slight defense, he didn't give himself this power, and it is his job to make the decisions that he believes, whether they be well-founded beliefs or not, but his beliefs on what will work for the team and be successful with his system, his philosophy, all that stuff. So, it's not his fault. We shouldn't be mad at him for having the power to do all this stuff. We can disagree with his decisions and how he's using that power all we want, and we're within our right to do so. Or agree, whichever side of the fence you happen to be on. I happen to be on the disagree side quite strongly. But where it resoundingly suggests that this will continue to be a downward spiral for at least a few several years to come, is the fact that the ownership bestowed this ability, this power, this authority onto him. And historically speaking, anytime that has happened, it usually doesn't work out very good for that team. And usually when it's happened, though, in the past, it's with a coach who has earned that level of trust from an organization via winning championships, what have you. Speaking of Bill Parcells and people of that nature. But anyway, sorry to start ranting immediately on that situation. I couldn't help myself, but let's rewind a little bit, step back, so that if you haven't been informed with everything that's transpired, you're up to speed and can understand more where I'm coming from. Alright, so last week, Chip Kelly decided to trade away LaShawn McCoy, who is the face of that offense, the face of that team on the field for the last 6 seasons, to the Buffalo Bills for a linebacker who played for him in college, who didn't play a single snap last season because he had a torn ACL. And the trade was straight up. There were no draft picks involved. Nothing. Now, in what world LaShawn McCoy equals Kiko Alonso straight up in a trade is beyond me. Not even the craziest of Madden gamers would make that trade on their team, let alone someone who's running an NFL organization, you would think. So, anyway, to start things off, not only do you trade away the face of your team for the past 6 years, who, by the way, had the most rushing yards of any running back in the NFL over those 6 seasons, you traded him for a guy who didn't play a single play last season, coming off of ACL surgery, torn ligament damage, which is no joke, hard to recover from. And the fans have nothing to base any optimism for that player off of because of his missing so much time last season and being a relatively new, unknown guy from a small market team who was just an up-and-comer anyway. Now, when this trade happened, I think myself, I should say, and most other people felt that this was just the one big crazy thing. There will be other moves, but nothing will be way out there like this. Boy, we could not have been any more wrong. I almost said wronger. I should have said wronger anyway. But we couldn't have been any more wrong. That McCoy trade was just the first domino in a huge crap pile of dominoes to fall for the Philadelphia Eagles over the last 7 to 10 days. Well, what other questionable moves could Chip Kelly have possibly made, you might ask, if you didn't know? Well, let me review them for you so far. Here we go. First off, he re-signed Mark Sanchez. I should be able to just end it right there, but there's a lot more, believe it or not. But yeah, he re-signed Mark Sanchez to a fairly, good backup deal with potential starter pay maybe, but mostly top backup pay. He then also proceeds to let the one other star offensive player on the entire team just leave in free agency, that being Jeremy Maclin, who is going to wind up going to the Kansas City Chiefs unless something falls through there. I'm not sure how big the contract is. I want to say it was $11 million, something like that, around $11 million a year. But he's reuniting with Andy Reid out in Kansas City. So they lost their 2 great offensive players in 1 week and went out of their way to keep one of the crappy ones. Brilliant, right? Well, it doesn't stop there. It keeps going. He chose to let their best veteran pass rusher, Trent Cole, leave via free agency as well, who wound up going to Indianapolis. The Colts being very active in free agency, also getting veterans Frank Gore at running back from the San Francisco 49ers and Andre Johnson, wide receiver from the Houston Texans. So the Colts have been very busy acquiring veterans to fill out their roster in hopes of putting them over that conference championship hump, getting them in the Super Bowl. But back to Philly. Let's throw a random decent move in there. Chip Kelly did make a point to re-sign Brandon Graham, their young pass rusher, who they drafted just a few years ago, has underperformed somewhat, but has not been a total bust, and was expected to be fairly desirable and even a potential target of the Vikings had he hit the free agent market, but they did keep him, so I do agree with that one move. Just felt like throwing it in there. But back to the nonsense. They let arguably their best, or one of their top at least, defensive backs, cornerbacks that is, named Kerry Williams go in free agency, and he ended up signing in Seattle with the Legion of Boom for 3 years, $18 million. However, they did replace him with another cornerback that they signed via free agency. And in my opinion, of all the free agent signings so far, this is hands down, without question, the most overpaying for a player that I have seen anyone do this offseason. That is the Philadelphia Eagles paying Byron Maxwell $60 million, $63 million make that. Excuse me,